All right. So I did a very interesting story that we've got to talk about. So I interviewed this guy before. Actually, I interviewed Mike Carey and his mom, Lynn. And the last time I interviewed him, we talked about how he got convicted of violating a restraining order, which doesn't exist. But what we're going to talk about now are events that immediately preceded that, and I'm going to put it together. So first, this is from inside the home he shared with his wife, then wife, Anna Rojas. That arm is Anna. And let's take a look at what she's about to do.
This happens every day.
Not every day.
Not every day?
No.
Don't you think it happens quite often, Anna? Don't you think this happens quite often?
Learning.
Pankecitos. Pankecitos.
I'm not going to keep playing it. That's her nailing their son, who was, I think, 9 months old at the time, with her elbow. And you heard Mike in the beginning. This happens quite often because he'd be in another room and hear him screaming the way you just heard him scream and run out. And she would say he fell, which is ridiculous. Kids don't scream the way you just heard because they fell. And they don't fall to the extent that she was claiming that little boy fell. So they took that boy to a pediatrician who, after examining him, believed that he was the victim of physical abuse. In stepped this woman, Lauren Clement, and she initiated an investigation on July 7th, 2023. Because caseworkers don't have body cams like police, which they should, we don't know exactly what she said, but Mike told me that she assured him that she was going to fast track the investigation, that she believed there was physical abuse. And almost as soon as that happened, the narrative started to change. So the first video I'm going to play is an interrogation, because I can't think of any other word, of the LAPD of Mike's mom, Lynn, which happens a few days after July 7th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, and it's coming up.
Towards this.
Start to see the baby 1 minute like this.
I know.
The next minute.
But I mean, then again, the child's a child, right? There's different ways that I know for a fact that, again, I'm not a specialist in that situation, but that's why I was asking about the whole pediatrician, since the child has been taken there. And obviously you guys alerted the pediatrician of some things that might be concerning. I wanted to know if there was an official diagnosis by that pediatrician to see if things were looking a little conspicuous on the behavior of the child.
She's certainly very concerned for me.
I was kind of just asking more some questions about the pediatrician. Like, okay, well, because I guess pediatricians are the one that contacted DCFS to make a case about this. And so my question to them was, okay, well, is the pediatrician more so concerned due to the child's health? Did they see anything concerning? Or is it more so because of the statement being made to the pediatrician? That's why they contact DCFS.
All right. So when the pediatrician contacts DCFS, that's really strong evidence. The parent may be biased. The pediatrician's not supposed to be biased. So these dirty cops, all right, I think his name is Rojas, that guy right there, are suggesting that the only reason the pediatrician called the Department of Children and Family Services is because Mike and his mom came in and gave him or her a sob story, and the pediatrician is too stupid to do their own investigation and just believed it. Because they have to start to muddy the waters on the initial initiation, because they're changing the narrative. But the narrative completely changes when LAPD, and for whatever reason, this guy's wearing a body cam, even though he's in the LAPD, offices, and he's going to be talking to Lauren Clement. And this is from July 14th, one of the most remarkable videos.
How was this brought to your attention? How was this whole situation brought to your attention?
The pediatrician called it in.
Pediatrician?
So,
okay.
Yeah. They've been having issues back since May, regarding concerns for the baby. He's been concerned mom's been hurting the baby probably since like April of this year. So, we do have the open investigation and we are investigating the allegations. But I am getting more concerned with Dad throughout my time with this. Yeah, I recommended the same thing you did when you talked to them. I also talked to Mom this morning. I recommended her to talk to her attorney and maybe follow through with a restraining order. Was any restraining order offered when you guys were there this morning?
No, because we could only offer the EPO, and that's only for like domestic violence victims. And basically, she was telling me there was no physical abuse. It's kind of just like that she doesn't like the way he talks to her, basically.
No, that's pretty interesting. In a week, they go from Mom maybe hit, not maybe. All right. And keep in mind, this video that we watched was video that they had, and a lot more than just that one particular clip. They all know that Mom is hitting that kid with her elbow. And what Anna told everyone, and including on video, is no, he was like, got behind me and fell, and that's why he screamed out. They go from in a week, they go from she is the aggressive abuser to somehow Mike is the aggressive abuser, and she's in need of a protective order. And you heard him. Well, could you give her a protective order? Well, no, because he's never committed any domestic violence, so there's no reason, which is interesting because on July 31st, she suddenly did sort of get a protective order. She had him arrested on July 31st. The cops, after investigating, found there was no protective order. She had him arrested on August 1st again for violating a protective order. On August 31st, the cops came out and said, upon further investigation, utilizing department resources, MI check, DRVOS, and a check with WLA principal clerk, officers were unable to substantiate that any active restraining order has been served. And so there was never any restraining order, but this was all orchestrated. On July 7th, I believe this woman was out there to investigate physical abuse on the part of Ana Rojas. And sometime between then and July 14th, someone told her to change the narrative, and they soon started investigating Mike, and they let this woman get away with it. She used the conviction for violating the restraining order to get sole custody and to move to Costa Rica. She is the consul general for Costa Rica, high-ranking diplomat, which may or may not be the reason why all of this is happening. Your thoughts?
We go back 100 years, 1925, right? You go back 50 years, 1975. This is not core police work. This is not work that the police ever did. This is not work that the police should be doing, okay, when you think about it.
Investigating child abuse?
No, not at all. Because when you think about what happened 100 years ago and 50 years ago, and Chicago's the perfect place to talk about it with Bierman. This was the province, the cops would not get involved. This is the province, if you had an issue like this, of the mafia, of organized crime.
Right.
And that's where the Bierman firm comes from, because you have the managing partner's grandfather and father were organized crime members. If you had a problem like this, you would go to your local, wise guy on the corner and say, I'm having a problem with this thing, and that it would be taken care of. If a cop like this guy that showed up, he would have got thrown a beating if it was 50 years ago, and he would have been pissing blood for a week, and he wouldn't have gotten involved. And the kid that was getting beaten and choked, the 9-month-old kid, would be protected. We have a system now where this social worker who never would have existed 50 years ago is in this equation. This cop who never should be thinking, he's thinking and he's doing things he never should be doing. It's not police work. And then you have everybody kind of collapsing around him. I hate to say it. I think the answer is to go back to 1975, even go back to 1925. I think some people got
I don't know.
That's what I think.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree.
Protect the children and stay in your lane. They're not worried about the kids at all, and that's what the problem is.
These cops aren't. I think you get rid of DCFS or CPS, whatever you call it. I think the cops have to investigate this, but these are dirty cops.
They have a video, Mike. They have
a lot of videos. Folks, we watched one. She did this a lot. There's a lot of videos.
You have the evidence there. The second that happens, there's no explanation for that.
Right.
You're hurting a child right there.
Right.
You're taking a 9-year-old and a 9-month-old. You know how that affects their developmental stages? The oxygen, the brain, everything else. It's disgusting that they even entertain this. These people should be taken out in cuffs in 2025. In 1975, they should be thrown in a friggin' ditch. That's what they
Right,
should
let
do.
me, let me show
And
you
that's where this
just,
country's gone. This country's gone to
Right.
shit because of it.
all right, that's his boy shortly after that video was made. He was walking. Now watch him. This is how it affects
To
him.
bring him around to the front.
Now he
Said
needs
you're gonna
that
go to the
thing to
beach.
walk. And look, he can barely walk.
What's going
That
on?
kid was walking on his own. And that's because from the brain to his legs, there's a short circuit as a result of the beatings and the lack of oxygen. Mike explained it pretty well. You know what? Let's listen. Mike's going to explain.
On June 24, which was a few weeks before that footage, Anna and her brother had restricted Arlo's breathing, which was not the first time, and it had caused him to lose a lot of function in his overall body. But the main thing that we noticed was his legs. So before that attack, he had been developing walking quite stable. He was a really coordinated and just progressing like any sort of kid should. After that attack, his legs had really deteriorated to not be able to.
He went from walking on his own to what you just saw because she restricted his breathing.
To bring him around to the front. Said you're going to go to the beach. What's going
And the
on?
cops, and particularly, where is she? This lady right here, Lauren Clement, and there's her phone number if you want to give her a call. They didn't care. And they orchestrated this scheme to make sure that she was kept safe, that he was falsely accused, and that boy wound up in the hands of a monster. And he is.
How do we have a system that went from, taking out child abusers and child rapists, taking them out, to a system that protects them? It's disgusting. Right. It's disgusting. Right. So we can't trust the system because it is, and this is my opinion, it is not consonant with natural law. It's not consonant with morality. And the fact of the matter is, we're getting to the point where vigilantism may very well be on the table. If this happened to me, it would never happen to me. Put it that way.
It's one of the worst stories that I've covered. They did that boy who wasn't even a year old. You